They kicked me out of Dad's birthday for being poor. Then security called me Madam CEO. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and please don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. After my mother died, my dad remarried a woman from a rich family. From that moment, my life changed. I became the poor stepdaughter, while my stepmother and her children lived in luxury, enjoying everything I could only dream of. Every year, my dad's birthday party was the biggest event of the year. It was full of laughter, music, and fancy clothes. But every year, I was never invited. I thought maybe it was a mistake or something I didn't understand. One year, I decided to go anyway. I hoped they would see me and welcome me. I dressed nicely, brought a gift, and walked up to the party. But what happened shocked me. The security stopped me at the door. My stepmother acted like she didn't know me, and my stepsister laughed and even recorded me on her phone. Everyone watched as I was pushed out like a stranger, humiliated in front of the whole family. I left feeling crushed and hurt, but that was not the end. 1 year later, I returned, but this time, I didn't just walk in. I arrived in a beautiful limo, with my company's security by my side, calling me Madam CEO. What happened next? How did they react to me now? Did my dad recognize me? Stay with me to find out the full story. Don't forget to subscribe and share, because you won't want to miss what happens next. He used to call me Kiddo. Every morning before work, he would ruffle my hair and hand me a snack wrapped in tissue. On weekends, we'd go to the park or sit on the balcony eating roasted corn. He wasn't a perfect dad, but he was mine. I was his little girl, and that meant everything to me. Then she came, the woman he married after my mother passed. At first, I tried to be nice. I smiled when she made awkward jokes. I helped her set the table, but it didn't take long to realize she didn't want me there. Her smiles were only for him, and her cold eyes were only for me. Slowly, things began to change. Dad stopped noticing when I got home from school. He didn't ask about my grades or help with my homework like he used to. If I mentioned something I was proud of, like winning a science fair, he would just nod while scrolling through his phone. But if her daughter Naomi got a new dress or got picked to lead the school choir, there would be claps, hugs, and gifts. I started to disappear in my own house. My birthdays became quiet days with no cake, no gift, just another reminder that I no longer mattered. Meanwhile, Naomi got parties with balloons, photographers, and shiny boxes stacked like trophies. She would toss her gifts aside carelessly. One time, I overheard Dad say, "Anything for my baby girl." He wasn't talking about me. The final straw came after I graduated from high school. I'd gotten into a decent university. Not a fancy one, but good enough. I was excited and nervous. When I showed Dad the acceptance letter, he barely glanced at it. The next day, Naomi posted on Instagram, "New car for college," with a picture of the red convertible Dad had just bought her. Me? I didn't get a ride or even a bag. When I asked about help with tuition, my stepmother said coldly, "We have other priorities." I moved out with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. Dad didn't stop me. He didn't even look up when I said goodbye. I cried the entire first night in the tiny room I rented. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how a man could forget his own daughter so easily. But deep down, I knew the answer. She didn't just marry my father. She stole him from me. He used to call me Kiddo. Now he barely remembers my name. I found out about my dad's birthday party on Instagram. My stepsister had posted a story of the venue, golden balloons, fairy lights, a giant cake, and people laughing in shiny clothes. My heart sank. I scrolled through more posts. There were decorations with "Happy 60th Daddy" written in gold, and even a photo booth with our family name. Everyone was there, everyone but me. At first, I told myself maybe they forgot, maybe the invitation got lost. I waited all day, checking my phone every hour, hoping I'd hear something, but nothing came. So I called my dad. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again and again. No answer. Later I got a message, not from him, but from his wife. It was short and cold. "You're not on the list. Please don't cause drama." I stared at that message for a long time. My chest felt tight. It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said it, like I was some stranger trying to crash their party, like I didn't belong. I sat on the bed, torn. Part of me wanted to cry and forget the whole thing. Another part whispered, "Go. You're still his daughter." My friend Bella called me just then. I told her everything. She said, If you don't show up for yourself, no one else will. Go. Walk in with your head high. So I did. I borrowed a dress from Bella, black and simple, but elegant. I scraped together some money and bought a small wooden plaque that said, "To the man who gave me strength." It wasn't much, but it was honest. When I got to the venue, my hands were shaking. I told the man at the gate my name. He looked at a list and shook his head. "Sorry, you're not on here." I stood there, frozen, while music played behind him and people clinked glasses. Then I saw my stepmother. She looked me up and down with a smirk. "Didn't you get my text?" She turned and walked away. I stood outside that party I was never meant to attend, holding a gift for a father who didn't remember me. "It must have got lost in the mail," I whispered, but even I didn't believe it anymore. When I arrived at the party, my heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone inside could hear it. The venue was beautiful. Sparkling lights, music playing softly, and people dressed in their best clothes, laughing and chatting. I took a deep breath and walked up to the entrance, hoping to find someone who would let me in. The security guard stopped me immediately. He looked at his list, then back at me, shaking his head. "You're not on the guest list," he said firmly. I tried to explain. "I'm his daughter. I was invited." He looked at me like I was crazy. "No one by your name is invited. You have to leave." I felt my throat tighten. I looked inside through the glass doors and saw guests holding glasses of champagne, women in designer heels, men in tailored suits. They were celebrating, and I was standing outside like I didn't belong. Then I saw her, my stepmother. She stood near the entrance, surrounded by family and friends. When she noticed me, she looked away quickly, pretending not to see me at all. My stepsister, Naomi, pulled out her phone and started laughing. She was filming me, like I was some kind of joke for everyone to watch later. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was her father's daughter, but they treated me like a stranger, an unwelcome ghost. "Please just let me in. I have a gift for Dad," I said softly, hoping for some kindness. The guard didn't move. Instead, 2 more security men came over and gently took my arms. They led me away from the entrance. I tried to hold back tears, but they fell anyway. Guests stopped talking and stared as I was escorted outside. I heard whispers, shocked looks, and even some laughter. My face burned with shame. I wanted to disappear. I turned and saw my father standing by the window inside, watching everything. For a moment, I thought he might come to me, say something, but then I heard his cold voice. "Just let her go." That was it. No hug, no apology, no, "I'm sorry." Just those words that crushed me more than anything else. I stood on the sidewalk, clutching the small gift I had bought for him. The music from the party drifted out, mixing with the cold night air. My stepmother and stepsister disappeared back inside, their laughter echoing in my ears. I realized then that I wasn't just being excluded from a party, I was being erased from their family story. My father, the man who once called me kiddo, had turned away. That night, I cried until I had no tears left, but inside, something changed. The pain was deep, but it was the moment I decided I would never be invisible again. I didn't know then how, but I promised myself, one day they would see me, not as the poor stepdaughter, but as someone they could never ignore. I sat on the cold curb outside that big house, clutching the small gift I'd bought for Dad. My face was streaked with tears, and my hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the mix of sadness and anger swirling inside me. The party noise drifted faintly through the air, a cruel reminder of where I wasn't welcome. I felt broken, but it wasn't just sadness, it was betrayal. The people who were supposed to love me, support me, and protect me had turned their backs without a second thought. My stepmother's laughter, my stepsister's mocking smile, and even my father's cold words haunted me. "Just let her go." Those words cut deeper than any slap. As I sat there, a car pulled up beside me. My best friend Amina rolled down the window and called out softly, "Hey, get in. You don't have to stay here alone." I climbed into the warm car, grateful but still trembling. Amina didn't say much. She just held my hand and let me cry it out. Sometimes, that's all you need, the quiet support of someone who believes in you, even when the whole world turns away. That night, as I lay awake, the tears finally dried, and a fire started to grow inside me. I wasn't going to stay broken. I wasn't going to let them define me or keep me powerless. No more pretending to be invisible. No more begging for love and acceptance where there was none. I made a promise to myself. I would change my story. I would build my own future. And it all started with one small step. I began by freelancing online, using whatever skills I had. I wrote articles, did social media posts, and helped small businesses get noticed. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Every dollar I earned felt like a victory. Then, I discovered coding. It was hard at first. Sometimes I wanted to give up, but I kept pushing. I stayed up late watching tutorials, practicing lines of code over and over. Slowly, I got better. The more I learned, the more confident I became. With a little savings and a lot of determination, I started my own small company. It wasn't fancy. It was just me, working from my tiny apartment, answering emails, building websites, and trying to find clients. But it was mine, my company, my future. I worked day and night, fueled by the memory of that night on the curb. Every no from clients, every failure, only made me stronger. I knew that one day, all this hard work would pay off. I would show them that the poor stepdaughter could rise above it all. That feeling of powerlessness, it was gone. I wasn't just surviving, I was fighting back, and I was winning. After that painful night when I was kicked out, I knew I had to change my life. I couldn't stay powerless anymore. I started by learning everything I could about business. Since I didn't have money for expensive schools, I took night courses and watched countless YouTube tutorials. Every free moment was spent studying, practicing, and dreaming about a better future. At first, I started freelancing online, doing small jobs to earn money, but I wanted more. I noticed a problem that many people faced, but no one was solving. I decided to build a startup to fix it. It wasn't easy. I worked from my laptop, sometimes from cafes, sometimes from friends' couches, because I didn't have a home of my own yet. Slowly, I began to get clients. Small businesses and individuals who needed help started trusting me. Each new client gave me hope and motivation to keep going. After months of hard work and saving every penny, I finally moved into my own apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, a symbol that I was moving forward. The real breakthrough came when a major investor heard about my company. They believed in my idea and took a chance on me. That investment allowed me to hire more people, improve my product, and reach more customers. It felt like a dream I never thought possible. Within just 18 months, my small startup grew into a business worth $20 million. I went from someone with no place to sleep to running a company that was making a real difference. Every step was difficult, but I never gave up. I worked late nights, faced challenges, and sometimes doubted myself, but my determination kept me going. Now, when I look back, I see how far I have come. From couch surfing to CEO, my journey shows that even when life knocks you down, you can rise again. I didn't just build a business, I rebuilt my life, and nothing can stop me now. When I saw online that my dad's birthday party was happening again this year, a mix of emotions rushed through me. Last year I had gone without an invitation, hoping they would welcome me. Instead, I was humiliated and kicked out like a stranger. But this time, things were different. I didn't need their permission or an invitation. I was going to make sure they knew who I really was now. Instead of using my own name, I RSVP'd with the name of my company. I wanted to show them that I had built something powerful on my own, without their help. I wanted to arrive not as the poor stepdaughter they had ignored, but as a successful woman who had earned her place. The day of the party, I arrived in a sleek black limousine. The car pulled up slowly, and heads turned as it stopped at the entrance of the grand venue. My company's head of security stepped out before me and opened the door. When he called me Madam CEO, I could feel the surprise in the air. People inside whispered and stared, eyes wide with disbelief. I stepped out, dressed in a beautiful designer dress that made me feel confident and proud. I walked past the crowd with silent strength, holding my head high. I didn't need to say a word. My presence said enough. I was no longer the girl they looked down on. I was a woman who had worked hard, fought for her success, and won. As I entered, I noticed my stepmother's face change. Her eyes flicked to me with shock and maybe a little fear. My stepsister, who had mocked me before, quickly looked away, not sure how to act around me now. The whole room was buzzing with whispers and glances. For the first time, I was in control. I didn't feel anger or sadness, only quiet pride. I had come to this party not to demand love or acceptance, but to show that I was strong and independent. I was there to claim my place, not as a forgotten daughter, but as a powerful CEO who had made it against all odds. This was my moment. I didn't need an invitation anymore. I had built my own path, and now everyone could see it clearly. I was no longer invisible. I was unstoppable. When I walked into the party that night, I immediately felt the sharp eyes of everyone on me. My stepmother's face twisted in disbelief, and without missing a beat, she moved toward me, trying to push me out once again. But this time, things were very different. Before she could say a word, the event organizer hurried over, her voice polite but firm. "I'm so sorry, Mom, but she's our honored guest. Please, let her stay." The apology to my stepmother was clear, and her presence was welcomed by everyone else. My dad stood nearby, watching quietly. At first, I could tell he didn't recognize me. His eyes scanned my face, searching for something familiar, but I was no longer the girl he once knew, or the one he had chosen to forget. For a long moment, he just stared, speechless and frozen, unable to speak. I caught the shock in his eyes. It was as if the success I carried with me made me someone completely new, someone he didn't expect. Then there was my stepsister, who had once laughed at me and treated me like I didn't belong. She tried to approach me with a forced smile, stumbling over her words as she pretended to be friendly. I could see through her act. She was confused and nervous, unsure how to act around me now that the tables had turned. Her fake kindness only made her desperation clearer. When it was my moment to speak, I didn't introduce myself as his daughter. Instead, I held my head high and said firmly, "I'm the CEO of the company sponsoring this event." The room went silent for a moment, the weight of those words sinking in. It was my way of showing everyone, including my family, that I had built something real and powerful on my own, without their support or approval. Seeing their faces, astonished, speechless, and humbled, felt like a quiet victory. This was the proof that I had changed my story. I was no longer the forgotten stepdaughter or the poor girl they ignored. I was a successful woman who had risen despite all the hurt and rejection. That night, champagne glasses were raised, but some were spilled in surprise. Mouths that once whispered behind my back now stared openly in shock. I had arrived, not as someone to be pitied or pushed aside, but as a force to be reckoned with. It was more than just a party. It was my moment to reclaim my place and rewrite the story that I had lived for so long. And as I stood there, surrounded by faces full of disbelief, I knew this was only the beginning of my new chapter. I didn't come to the party looking for a fight. I was calm and collected, knowing that I didn't need to shout or cause a scene to make my point. Instead, I told them quietly, "I'm not here to make trouble. I just came to drop something off and then leave." Everyone looked surprised, wondering what I could possibly want. I walked over to the table where the party was happening and placed a carefully wrapped gift right in the center. Inside was a framed copy of a contract. It wasn't just any contract. It showed that my company owned 30% of the very hotel where the party was taking place, the place where they had tried to humiliate me just a year before. I looked around the room, meeting their shocked eyes. There was no anger in my voice, just a quiet confidence. I smiled softly, knowing that my success spoke louder than any argument I could make. This gift was my way of saying, "I've made it. I don't need your approval." The guests started whispering among themselves, their voices low but full of surprise, and maybe even a little fear. The woman who had tried to throw me out, my stepmother, looked pale. Her stepsister couldn't hide her disbelief either. For once, they had nothing to say. Without saying another word, I turned around and walked away, leaving them to think about what they had just seen. I didn't need to scream or yell. My success was my revenge, and it was loud enough on its own. As I reached the exit, the security guard who had been standing nearby nodded politely and said, "Your car is ready, Madam CEO." His words made me smile even more. That title, once just a dream, was now my reality. I stepped outside, feeling proud and free. I had finally shown them all that I was not someone to be ignored or looked down on. I had risen from the pain and rejection, and now I stood tall, powerful, and respected. That night I left the party not as the poor stepdaughter, but as a woman who had taken control of her life and her future. I didn't need to scream to be heard. My success did it for me. Looking back, I realize I didn't work so hard to get revenge. I did it for myself, for my own self-respect, and to prove that I am worth more than what they thought. I wanted to build a life where I didn't have to depend on anyone else's approval or kindness. A few days after that party, my father reached out to me. I saw his message, but I didn't answer. I had changed too much to go back to the same old pain. I wasn't the same girl who stood outside, humiliated and ignored. I had found my own strength, and I wasn't about to lose it again. Instead, I walked into my office, a place I had built from nothing. My employees greeted me warmly, like family. Their respect and trust meant everything to me. Here, I wasn't a stepdaughter or someone forgotten. I was the leader, the boss, the woman who created something real and valuable with her own hands. I looked around at the busy office, feeling proud. This was my table, the one I had built myself. I didn't need to sit at their table or ask for a place there. I had made my own, and it was better than anything they could offer. In that moment, I understood something important. It wasn't about being poor or not having fancy things. The real problem was being underestimated. People thought I couldn't succeed because of where I came from or what I lacked, but I proved them wrong. And now, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. I'm writing my own story, on my own terms, and that makes all the difference. Do you think she was right to walk away from her father's message, or should she have given him a second chance? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this one.